Hello, I'm Jack Rickard with EVTV. This is my compadre and consigliere, El Brain Noto.
Hey, good to be here. It must be Friday.
Well, it's Friday. It's so hot, Brian,
I know, it just saps you.
that we don't have a show for you today. I'm sorry. Oh, we'll do a couple of things, but we really don't have a show today.
It's Friday,
We're
we're
gonna have to
sapped.
fake it. It's been 100 degrees here all week.
It's been crazy.
August 3rd.
Okay, August 3rd.
What's today? 29th?
Today is 29th, so that would be Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, Tesla is going to announce their earnings.
Oh, okay.
And, of course, they have a new $100 million contract with Toyota.
That's right,
But
with
they've
Toyota.
been doing work for Toyota and Daimler all along.
Yeah, yep.
And,
It's going to be good.
So I think, again, this is going to be a good thing. Guess what happens the day before?
So that'll be on the 2nd. What happens the day before?
August the 2nd.
Oh, well, we don't have, I think, what, the government runs out of money?
You know, they do.
They should.
and therein lies, hey, I noticed you didn't bring me any wine today.
I did, well, in feeling the future austerity here after Tuesday, you know.
You know, and that brings up a point.
Does it? Okay.
A little over a year ago, probably in February, Rick Santelli of CNBC
Santarelli, I think. Yeah,
Santelli, I
yeah,
think.
Santelli, yeah.
threw a fit
Yes.
on CNBC
I remember that.
and declared a tea party in Lake Michigan.
Yes. Yes.
Would you believe that spawned kind of a national grassroots movement?
We have a tea party. Yes.
Well, come November, a bunch of them got
I
elected.
know.
Enough of them got elected to pass the control of the House of Representatives
Yeah.
from the Democrats to the Republicans. And we have a very neat thing happening this week. Everybody thinks it's a disaster. I'm partying like a rock star. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I love gridlock.
I do too. And chaos is even
Chaos
better.
is even better.
And
Gridlock and
grassroots
chaos.
movements, which is what we're fomenting on the electric car
Exactly.
front. And you have to understand why they're so powerful. The way that the House of Representatives in the Senate works is you have a Speaker of the House, and he's the head of the majority in the House.
Right.
And you have a head of the Senate. What do they call him?
Oh,
Other than Harry Reid.
yeah, the head of the Senate. I guess the Senate Majority Leader.
Senate
I
Majority
guess be
Leader.
Senate Majority
That's
Leader,
right.
yeah.
And the way this works is when they go to pass legislation, all the guys in their caucus that are a problem, the Speaker goes around and reminds them that he kind of controls the money
That's right, the moolah.
from the Republican National
Right,
Committee
right.
that gets them elected.
Yeah.
And if they ever want to see any of that moolah again, they need to get on
That's
board
right,
this
get in
bill.
line. That's right. Shape
And it's
up.
very effective.
Yeah.
If they want any committee assignments, they got to play ball. And if they want any loot for their
Right, anything to
district,
go back home, that's right.
little pork, they better play ball.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. They didn't give any of the Tea Party any money.
Right, they're not on no cushy committee assignments. No.
They don't care about committee assignments.
Yeah, they really don't have much.
They don't believe in pork.
Yeah, nothing to lose.
You know what they want to do?
They want to fix something? God forbid.
And in their mind, you know what fixing something looks like? With a $14.3 trillion deficit and 40% of what we're spending being additional borrowed money.
Right, yeah.
They want to stop that.
Imagine that. What would happen if that broke?
You know, I got mixed emotions. I was wanting to see how far we could take it just borrowing money from everybody.
That's right. Just take
and
all their money.
spending it like whores and drunken sailors.
That's right. We'll just pay you
and,
back with
and see how far
deflated
this
money
would really
anyway.
go.
Yeah, we'll pay you back with dollars that don't really count.
I thought it was kind of experimental.
That's right. Pretty
Try
damn
it and
good.
see what happens. Because I might want to do that myself.
That's right. We need to learn, from the
Instead of
best.
spending my money, let's borrow money and just spend all we want.
Yeah. And you can always get more. Print it. Oh, we can't print money though.
We can't print. Oh, that's
Our
right.
problem. We can't print it. They kind of frown on that.
So these Tea Party guys want to stop this, and there's only there's 22 of them.
Yeah, there's not that many. No.
Well, the reason for all this wrestling is they keep having meetings with Bonert and Reed and the president. There's just one problem. Bonert can't deliver anything.
That's right. There's nothing he can do. Yeah, not without them.
The Democrats ain't compromising nothing. In the House, they had the minority whip on this morning. Oh, what a moron.
Going crazy.
And so he's got to get the Republicans to all vote for something, and he's got 22 guys that are like, what was your name again? Bonert, right? You're like the head guy, right?
Yeah, you're in
And
charge.
he's like, yes, I'm the head guy. And he wants to do what? Okay, no problem. We just want a balanced budget amendment. We want you to quit spending money, and we're cool.
And we're all good. Oh, God.
No taxes. and this is not the way it's done in Washington.
No.
What's really ironic about this is that Obama was the one going to go change the status quo.
That's right. Change.
He can barely keep up with the status quo.
That's right. Change and hope.
And these Tea Party guys are like, spell that again?
Yeah, we don't know no better.
Spell that again, status what?
We all had jobs when we got
Quo
here.
what?
And if we go back home, we'll still have jobs.
I was looking for a job when I got this one. No, we ain't going to change anything. We're just going to shut you down.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Then we're going home.
It's going to be fun.
I got to tell you, I'm a little captivated by it. And it is the nature of grassroots movements. See, there's no leverage of coercion.
Right.
We're the most coercive society
Yeah.
on the planet now.
Yeah, when you find
Everything is by threat.
Yeah, when you get a couple of guys that have enough power that just don't care, it's like
You get a guy in blue
Threaten me
jeans
up,
walks
yeah.
into the halls of Congress,
it's like sure.
says, yeah, I come to drink some tea.
Yeah, that's it.
And so today I'm having, because of the heat, of course,
Oh, yeah.
iced tea. And since
Your own tea party?
Since I'm cutting back, diet iced
Diet
tea.
iced tea. Oh, God. He's having his own tea party.
I got to tell you, I'm they think the American people want resolution. You know anybody wants resolution?
Not particularly. No. No. Don't do anything. That would be the best thing.
They
Stay
put Bernie
home.
Madoff in jail for running a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, they got a good Ponzi scheme going right now.
Here's the problem. All those guys in the first year of the baby boom
Yeah.
were born in 1946.
Yeah.
This is 2011. They turned 65 this year.
Yeah.
Coincidence? Methinks not.
Anything's not.
Guess what happens next year?
A whole another group of them?
You know the guys born in
Yeah, I was gonna say the guys
1947?
after 'em, yeah.
If you add 65 to 47, what do you
I
get?
guess that'd be 2012.
And they've been spending money like they think the Mayan calendar's got us.
That's
That's
right.
pretty
We-
much the end
we-
of it.
we better
I
hope.
got news for them.
We better hope that
The Mayans were wrong because another group was born in 1948.
That's right. Yeah.
And
And they
when
want
you-
their damn
When you get
retirement.
to my year, 1955, it got to be 4 million births a year.
Yeah.
After averaging 2.5 million during the 40s.
Yeah.
And that baby boom generation, somebody's turning 65 every 7 seconds.
That's right. There's a bunch of them.
And the euphemism in Washington is entitlement. Something needs to be done about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you took 12.4% of their pay
Right.
at the end of a gun
Yeah, that's right. You didn't have any
for
choice.
50 years and told them it was going into a trust fund that they would have a retirement from.
Yeah. And what happened to the trust part of the trust fund?
Spent like drunken sailors and horses. It was actually kind of, I mean, you got to give them, they're innovative.
Oh, yeah.
So they
And to run it
sell
so
all
long.
these treasuries
Yeah.
Guess this 14.3 trillion debt?
Yeah.
Guess who's the largest holder of security treasuries in the world?
It's got to be somebody out of the United States.
Believe it or not, it's inside the United States.
Really?
It's the Social Security Trust Fund.
Oh, God.
And Obama, Harvard educated, is such a
Holy
moron.
moly.
He's threatening to hold Social Security checks. Guess what the one entity with the legal power to force the president into debt is?
Well, that would be the Social Security Trust Fund. Then.
Actually, they are. They do not need a vote on the debt ceiling to pay Social Security. He has to borrow the money to pay them.
Yeah. Wow.
And
can
half
just
of
call
our
it.
government, half of our people in government don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
And the man hadn't had a budget for 800 days.
Yeah. True enough.
There's no budget. Remember when we used to have a budget crisis?
Yeah. Yeah. We can't even have a budget crisis
Because they
anymore.
don't submit a budget.
We can't even have a good, honest budget
It's
crisis.
just like drunken sailors and whores with money. And so I applaud the Tea Party. And the reason it's so difficult and 22 people can hold all this up is because there's no way to threaten them.
Yeah, they don't have any leverage over
You
it.
didn't give them any money to get elected, and so you can't take it away, Boner.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, they got
You
elected
didn't
without
give them any committee assignments, and they're not too sure what those are, and are pretty sure that's not got anything to do with what they came to do
it.
anyway.
Right, exactly. To lock them up in a committee room.
Right.
That's one way to keep them quiet.
Yeah, they still take their weekends off.
Yeah.
And what are the other gimmies you get? Oh, pork.
Hey,
They don't approve of this anyway.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to stop.
Take a road to nowhere back to your
Right.
district.
Offering to cut them into the deal is not going to persuade them or the voters that sent them, and so it's not gridlock. They're running the show.
Yeah.
22 guys.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And Reed's
amazing.
not going to compromise. Okay, well, let's pass the bill and send it over to the Senate, see what he
See what
does with it. You be responsible for shutting down the government.
Yeah, you can play with us.
So much unobtainium. Ran into a guy online this morning
Okay.
on LinkedIn. Claims to have a battery. I said, sure you do.
That's right. Everybody must have a battery.
Everybody's got a battery.
Yep.
He said, no, this is a better battery. And he sent me a spec sheet on it. And I looked at the spec sheet and I said, well, this is unobtainium.
Okay.
And I wrote him and told him it was very entertaining, but of course it didn't exist.
Right.
He says they're putting them on buses in China now, and would I like to buy some?
Oh, I know what that answer was. Open the checkbook.
You have them for sale.
Yeah, that's right.
Indeed I do. What's interesting about this
Wow.
battery is I had a conversation with George Hamstra 6 months ago of Net Gain Motors.
Right.
And this has nothing to do with Net Gain Motors, really, or EVTV. He's a pretty bright guy, and I just like to chat with him.
Sure. Yeah. Wasn't it X-Bell Labs or something?
Oh,
George?
yeah.
Yeah.
Bell Labs
Yeah.
guy. 3 or 4 careers. He's a fisherman now.
Yeah, he loves fish.
But he does sell us
Part-time
motors.
fisherman.
Part-time motor
Yeah, part-time
developer.
motor.
He dabbles in motors and fishes professionally.
That's right.
And I keep kidding him about that. He don't come off of it. That's what he really likes.
He really likes doing.
And but I was talking about getting some, a small machine and making batteries here in the shop.
Okay. Yeah.
And just
Remember that
trying different
conversation, yeah.
materials on the aluminum and copper, peanut butter, Oreo, kind of the Edison approach.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll just
See
grind
what
up some
doesn't work.
Oreos and make that the anode, and a little peanut butter, make that the cathode and stuff.
Banana.
I have long been fascinated with a material called titanium dioxide.
Yeah.
TiO2 is a magic mineral. It is, it does magic things. It does things that actually defy the law of physics.
Okay. We like that already.
If you put platinum in an electrolyte and put TiO2 12 miles away in the same electrolyte and shine light in the region of 380 to 420 nanometers on the TiO2, hydrogen shows up on the platinum.
Get a little bubble.
And oxygen shows up on the TiO2.
Oh, okay.
And oxygen is basically the most corrosive substance on the planet.
Right.
But it's also a germicidal and a bleach.
Yeah.
And so you can make like tiles out of TiO2 and put them on a roof. If it rains on it and the sun hits it, they bleach themselves white.
Bleach themselves white. Pretty good.
Even if they had
Self-cleaning
mold. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Self-cleaning tiles. They use them in hospitals and stuff. It's just a fascinating material. This is not TiO2. It's titanium and lithium. It is not a lithium iron phosphate cell.
tiles. Okay. All right.
I would note that first. And I like lithium iron phosphate cells because they're very stable. I would also note there's multiple reports of buses burning down in China. I don't know
We
that
don't know
it's
which
these cells.
batteries are doing it or why it's happening.
I'll just say that buses are bursting into flames
Right, we'll hold
all
it
over
at that.
China. And this guy says these are in buses, but they're a fascinating cell. It's called the Shenzhen CZW Battery Technology Company Limited of Shenzhen, China. And they're talking about a 10 amp hour cell with a rated voltage of 2.2 volts, considerably below
lower.
ours, an internal resistance less than 1 milliohm, a charge voltage of 2.85 volts. Let's see, you charge at one seat at 2.85 and then hold that until 0.05 C, where we heard that
Yep,
before.
that's exactly the way we like to do it.
That's the standard charge method would be in for 1 hour. The maximum charge, let's see if I can find it because it's quite fascinating. Max pulse discharge is 200 amps, so 10 C. The discharge cutoff voltage is 1.5 C. The life cycles is 20,000 cycles. Oh, and you can charge at 6 C.
So you can charge that up pretty fast.
10 minutes.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fast. Wow.
20,000 cycle, essentially a lifetime battery, and it's 85 grams.
And that's light.
Now that works out to 259 watt hours, even at the lower voltage. Per kilogram, we're driving around at 106.
Right. Phew, man.
This is 2.5 times more power per weight
Right.
than the cells we're using. And I don't have pricing on it yet, and I don't know when I'm going to get them, but I have agreed in principle to buy them at any price.
Right. To test them or whatever. Yeah, sure.
And in any quantity necessary to see these. If they burst into flames, I'll burn them down. They're about the size of an A123 cell, but 0.7 millimeters thick instead of 7 millimeters.
Wow.
And 85 grams instead of 480 grams, and 10 amps instead of 20.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Wow.
huge power, even huger energy density, and even huger yet cycle life.
Cycle life is amazing. Yeah.
This would be a miracle battery and would change life as we know it.
Yeah, that would do it.
What do you know?
Let's see. Nothing that interesting. Just a couple of fun things this week. You know, we don't really talk about hybrid vehicles or biodiesel or anything like that, but I was just scrounging around this week, and it looks like, now this is something that actually is close to my heart and your heart, and I'm sure a few of our viewers, after watching us poke holes in our livers here with alcohol, that they say that tequila actually will fuel a new biofuel crop. That there is that the tequila, I guess there is an issue that a lot of the, like here in Missouri, a lot of corn is grown for biofuels, and it's grown in very fertile land. Tequila doesn't grow in fertile land; it grows in the middle of the desert. And apparently, there's a lot of agave that tequila is made out of that is out there. And I didn't realize so many agave plantations had been abandoned. They used it for rope and for dart boards. Well, plastic overtook that, so there are all kinds of very basic, really, really non-arable land with all this agave on it, and they say that it makes great biodiesel, and I think it even makes better tequila. But oh well.
Therein lies the tale. You've heard the song "Tequila Makes Her Clothes Fall Off."
Yeah.
My wife's a tequila lush. She likes to finish the day that way, and it does make her clothes fall off. We go out to eat. She's trying to describe to these people how to make her margarita.
Oh, the margarita, yeah.
And if they don't make it
Signature
her
margarita.
way, she sends it back, and we go through this big, long thing. Some of the waiters have started pulling me aside, wanting to know what she's saying.
What am I supposed to do?
2 shots of Patron, throw a wedge of lime in it, and bring it to her on ice in an iced tea glass.
And call it a margarita.
Make sure and tell her it's a margarita.
It's a margarita, that's right. This is the special margarita.
I don't like the Margadaki screw a lot on the beach.
Yeah, that's right. Just throw it all in there.
Yeah, call it a margarita, but it's 2 shots of Patron and a lime wedge.
Wedge of lime. It's a pretty drink.
Well, doesn't tequila don't?
That's
Doesn't
right.
margarita have? No, don't go there.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that. Just tell her it's a margarita. She'll be, oh, it's good.
Margarita.
I made some tequila.
Yes, I do remember that almost killed you.
I just about went to the hospital. I could not believe the charge I was getting out of this still. And instead of believe my instruments, I did a lot of
Decided not
thinking
to.
and typing myself smart and put it in a barrel anyway. And woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning with an excruciating headache. I get headaches like twice a decade.
Yeah, I barely ever get them. Yeah. Oh, man.
And I was ready to go to the emergency room. I went back and emptied the barrel back in the still and ran it again, paying careful attention to the exact measurements I was getting from the hydrometer. And a third of the product was drawn off before I got to my normal head cut.
Oh, man.
Out of 5 gallons, I'm 1.75 in, and I'm still at 81%. I can't get it to go
Can't do
down.
anything with it. Oh, man.
Now, that's this 1.75 gallons. And so tequila is commercially impossible to make. If you actually do a proper head cut on it, you're throwing a
throw a
third
lot
of your
away, yeah.
product
Wow.
down the sewer. And that's why everyone who's tried tequila made in the tube stills, the column stills,
yeah.
has a bad experience with it. It's because it's poisonous.
That's right. Everybody has one.
If you'll simply take your bottle of Jose Cuervo and distill it
one more time.
throw about 20% of that away,
Then you'll be-
it's a marvelous drink and really quite good. I have 55 gallons of agave syrup in the back, and at some point I'll make her some
Yeah, because it'll just sit around. It never goes bad, really.
But what that is caused by, I have sort of pieced together a theory. Tequila has some heptasaccharides in it that they variously lump together and call inulin. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be a good kind of sweetener for a diabetic.
Diabetics, yeah, right.
And is gaining a lot of traction in the food industry. Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of hard to ferment. It takes
Yes.
longer,
Yeah.
and you have to use kind of a variety of yeasts
To
to
get it
break
all-
down this inulin.
Yeah.
But when you do, you get a good quantity of ethanol. You also get a good quantity of methanol, acetone, isobutanes. It's
Yummy.
it's tasty, and you need to throw that away.
Don't even look at it.
And so I think you could just take the top third, turn that into bio, and take the next third and put that in an oak barrel, and take the final third and throw it in with the next
And then
batch.
try and run it again.
You'd be cool.
That's right. You'd be good.
It's just a hint. Yeah, we don't do hybrids. I don't care about bio.
No.
Sorry, Neil. It's a dumb idea.
We care about tequila.
But you weren't the king of rock and roll because you got laid off from the NASA program. I understand that.
Oh, man.
I'm making friends today.
That's right. And talking about California, I guess I thought they were already out of money, but apparently they've run out of the $5,000 state rebates for all electric vehicles. So they're out there. So that was $5,000. I think this federal is still good, the $7,500. But Nissan Leaf prices are going up. I think that Chevy's tweaking the Volt a little bit to take advantage of the $7,500 because they don't qualify for the $7,500. So in California, it's $5,000 more now to buy an electric car.
I thought they were going to bring some of that back. They just don't have the money.
No, they don't have the money. I think,
and they don't really have an effective Tea Party out there,
no,
do they?
No, they really don't.
It's a problem.
They need
Let
one
me
out
tell you
there.
what's going on there. Couple of things that people don't know about. Well, one, today, Friday, the 29th of July, while the debt crisis is going on, Obama is announcing the CAFE standards for 2025 or something, 2030.
Yeah, something out there, yeah.
54 and a
54.
half mile per gallon fleet average.
Yeah.
With a bunch of loopholes for SUVs and stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll all be driving SUVs by
That's
then.
right.
But what people don't realize is that California has the option, and this has been backed by Obama, and we kind of backed George Bush down on this, that they can have their own CAFE standards.
Yes.
And guess what the emissions allowed in 2050 in California from an automobile is?
It's got to be zero.
You know, it's not even close to zero. It is zero. You cannot operate a car in California the way it's set up right now that puts out any emissions after 2050.
It's going to be tough.
That's pretty far out there.
That's going to be tough, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, because they've got that ZEV, that zero emissions vehicle stuff that they've been pushing for years out there. Man.
So I kind of think, again, a toast to the Tea Party. I'm quite taken with them. We need a gasoline party.
Well, we just start burning stuff?
No, a grassroots movement not to use gasoline and get our personal transportation from electric drive. That does not include a hybrid or a bio. We can use electricity.
No, I
And
agree.
if T. Boone Pickens wants to make it from natural gas, I'm okay with that.
That's okay.
If you want to burn coal, I don't care. If you want to get it from solar, that would be a pretty smart idea. Because
nuclear in
again,
there.
you have individual control over it. You can't make your own gasoline. You can make your own electricity.
Yeah, you can.
And
Absolutely.
we're going to next year be doing some work on that. But if we can get a bunch of guys to demonstrate that they can live with electric cars and make that lifestyle work, I believe you could have a grassroots movement for electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. They can shoot me, but it won't do any good.
That's right. Yeah, it'll be moving.
I have a video camera and the lights, but I'm not even the nth part of it.
Right, yeah.
And
Yep.
there's nobody to bribe, and there's nobody to buy their patent, and there's, you can't stop something like that.
No, it's already got life
22
of its own,
guys
yeah.
can run Congress.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
And
telling you,
5%
it
of them.
doesn't take that many of you to go in your garage, build an electric car, and you would be amazed to watch how the world moves to accommodate you and your garage and that car. And a lot of this is a matter of lead, follower, get the hell out of the way. And so I'll offer a toast to the Tea Party, but I think we
water
have
today.
some other problems coming that can easily be forestalled just by the adoption of a drive technology that's 7 times more efficient at converting energy to forward motion.
Yeah, and just some, and you guys
Just
are
by
doing it
doing
out there.
that.
And you guys are doing it.
So we're getting some great response to the convention.
Oh, yeah.
It's not yet the 1st of August. We're talking about the 21st of September,
yeah.
and Criminy. They're piling in. It's going to be fun. And our contest,
Yes.
which we're going to announce the winner at the convention, is heating up.
Yes. It's getting,
Mike Picard and Brandon Hollinger are right now in a Mexican death clutch over
they're
the
kind of
lead.
in a dead heat almost.
But
Yeah.
the rest of them are kind of putting on the heat, and we have one this week that came to see us, Mark Emon
Yes.
from St. Michael's, Maryland.
Michael's, Maryland. Yes.
And he's not so much a tea party guy as a wine guy.
Yes.
Let's see what Mark's got to say.
All right.
Yep.
What happened?
We have a visitor. What are you bringing, Brain?
Well, our visitor, actually, Mark,
Yep.
brought some wine from his own winery in
St. Michael's,
St. Michael's,
Maryland.
Maryland. And in fact, I called my wife when I was driving here. She's been there and said it's pretty cool. She said that I would enjoy that area where you are in St. Michael's.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's a quaint little town that's on a peninsula in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, and it's really conveniently a nice staycation distance from some major metropolitan areas of Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia, and we even get some visitors down from New York.
Okay.
And it started out as a shipbuilding town, a lot of history with the Revolutionary War, and then moved over to a big fisheries industry when we used to have things like oysters and rockfish, which are 2% of what they used to be, and then has successfully transitioned into a tourist trade. And actually Condé Nast magazine, if I pronounce that right, selected it as one of the 10 most romantic spots in the United States.
Oh.
So this is on the peninsula on the east side?
Yep, over on the
I've
ocean
been
side.
there. A fellow I used to work with at Martin Marietta.
Oh, really?
Lived
Okay.
there, and I went and met and saw him and his wife. I was out there for something else and stopped by there. It was a pretty place.
A whole lot of shoreline, it's not just a straight line, it's a very craggy shoreline with really huge multi-million-dollar mansions on it. So a lot of money that comes from DC will want a place to spend the weekend, and so.
Mark was sympathetic to the way we start our shows often, and so what are you bringing me?
I'm bringing you a couple of examples of some hybrid wines. I know we don't like hybrid cars, Jack, but hybrid wines.
We like hybrid wines.
There's a big history there, and probably Brian can speak more intelligent to it, but essentially in the mid-1800s, our world kind of shrank because these clipper ships started learning the trade winds and the currents and everything else, and you could, at that point, pretty effectively order something from Europe, or cabinet maker or whatever, and expect to see it within your lifetime or within a few months. And botany really became popular, and so the plants started making this trip too. And so somewhere along the lines, somebody took a plant alive in soil and shipped it over to Europe, and it was planted. And a little passenger came along with the plant in the soil. Yeah,
Yep.
you know about it. It's
1880s wiped out.
Yeah, the phylloxera.
Yeah.
Completely wiped out.
Phylloxera, Phylloxera, little subterranean bugger. Just started munching on the roots of all the vineyards in Europe and just systematically was wiping it out because the Venus vinifera, the standard grapes that come from actually the Caribbean but then were moved up into Europe, didn't evolve with this sucker. They'd never seen it before.
No resistance to it.
No resistance, yeah.
Our grapes didn't care.
Didn't care. So the grapes in the U.S., there are native grapes in the U.S., Concord or Welch's grape juice would be an example of one. They evolved with this bugger. I don't think they like it chewing on its feet, but they can deal. So 2 approaches for this really big problem were taken up, and one is to interbreed the Mediterranean or then European grapes with American grapes to come up with a thing that a daughter or son plant that has the characteristics of resistance to the phylloxera, but also makes wine that doesn't suck. Now that's quite an ordeal, because first you have to control the interbreeding, make sure that you get what you think you are. Then you're not done. You have to raise the plant for 3 years to make grapes, because they don't start producing until 3 years, and then you have to make wine. So in other words, so 4 years down the road, you can taste it and go, boy, that sucked. And let's try it
It inherited the taste of the Lambrusco vine and the roots of the Venus vinifera. And so this isn't working.
But a lot of effort.
Back to the drawing board.
A lot of effort was put into that. Interesting enough, by the French, by monks, I don't know, maybe as a sommelier who did all that, to produce some of these grapes. Subsequently, what they finally got was considered to be sort of a poor bastard, illegitimate America half-bred stepchild.
A guy in Texas actually came up with this with a machete.
And so, another approach was taken, which was just to take these European, which, again, Brian can probably speak at length of it, these grapes, which were literally, like, if they had a Chardonnay, it was from King so-and-so's vineyard, and the clippings just were taken down through generations, and they were revered, and they still are. And so to take this royal grape and just, the French won't tell you this, but graft it onto the roots of an American plant. And that's what's done today. And all the vineyards all over Europe, they'll never tell you, but every single one of those is sitting on an American rootstock with resistance.
They don't want to have phylloxera again,
And we have some of these in our vineyard.
So are we going to try some of this phylloxera?
So this, you said, what, a Sable Blanc?
It's a Saval.
Saval Blanc?
Yeah, which you could probably speak about the heritage of. And we also grow Chardonnay, and so we've put in 27% Chardonnay. The Saval is really nice, very spicy wine, and we feel that actually it was kind of an accident because these happened because it was late at night and I had a long day, and I just put the two wines together in a tank and it turned out perfect. But I can say I did it deliberately. The Chardonnay just rounds it out, makes it very nice, and it goes amazingly well with local seafood, which from where we are, I don't know if it's terroir, I don't know if it's just dumb luck, but it's a really nice, dry, crisp white wine. And this one's sweating because we're, 101 degrees here today?
And I did put it in the freezer to chill for about 30 minutes.
I do appreciate it.
It should be a little bit refreshing.
And I assume we're using the big glasses for the red.
We can use whichever for
And
whatever.
so this will ripen early, and it sounds like they used it in England and things.
100
I guess
days.
the French don't particularly are fond of these grapes. So I guess they can't actually use them.
They're actually outlawed.
Yeah, because they're hybrids.
Because they're hybrids. Like I said, they're poor bastard, illegitimate American half-bred commoner stepchild. But it makes a great wine, and we sell a ton. I can't make it fast enough. And it's funny, the vines are ugly as hell.
Really?
But they're just, they were
kind of gnarly looking. Vines,
these vines are 25 years old, and you wouldn't know it to look at them.
Grassy, melon, maybe a little citrus.
It has that kind of color.
So it's a thin-skinned grape, so, right, kind of like a...
I think just like the rest of the hybrids, it relative to trying to grow vinifera in our area, it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
It has great color, amazing flavor. It's not tannic, crazy tannic like you like, Jack, but it's so it's more approachable for your, a newer wine drinker or for a lighter meal.
It's got a nice color.
And I think we do this with French oak, and we don't have to give it that 2 years in oak like we would with a cab or something for those tannins to die down. Because you taste a cab right out of fermentation, it's a rude, wine, and it really takes all those years in the oak to calm down. This one doesn't. After a year, it's good to go.
That's not bad either. That's kind of nice.
Really round.
It is
It's
pretty
got a lot of nice fruit in there.
Nice fruit.
Yeah.
Not a big tannic monster, but
No.
Do you have to add sugar to the Chambersin to get it to...
I don't think we chaptalize either of these wines. If we do, it's a very teeny amount. I mean, it's
They
like
get pretty
We got
ripe.
some
huh?
Chambersin grapes, like 2 tons of grapes.
Yeah,
I
remember we
didn't know
got
that. And we got 2 tons of grapes, and this turned into 2 days of horror. It was
Yeah, with a
Hand
bladder
pressing them?
press.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Not a bladder press,
Well,
but still.
we had a little bladder press you hook up to a garden hose. I can show it to you, but it's not real big. We didn't know what we were doing. This turned into a monster. But we did these 2 tons of grapes. I made wine out of them. It was a nasty wine, as I recall. and then distilled that into a brandy.
Perfect for brandy.
I haven't tasted it in a couple of years. When we go back to the house, maybe we'll dip in there and see what happens.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was an ordeal. That
And that's in a Hungarian oak for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking
I
like
make a little whiskey in the garage.
Yeah, these are both nice
Yeah,
wines.
these are both
thank you.
nice
Thank you.
wines.
Yeah,
Very good. Now, this was your second career.
yes, or third even, I think.
Third?
Yeah.
What was your first?
In my 20s, I was a musician.
Really?
And it's interesting because a lot of the contest finalists are musicians.
Isn't that
Isn't it?
right?
It's really-
I didn't know
it
you
is
were
weird.
too. We've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
a couple of professional musicians
Yeah.
in the top 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a bassoon player and a trumpet player?
Saxophone.
That's right, saxophone player.
Yes.
I even
reed
prompted.
instruments.
I even wrote to Jack and said, "Are there more that are musicians?" And there might be, because I wouldn't know from my profile that that's what I was. I even went to school for it. Went to have 3 degrees in it, and the last one led me on my current life, the next career, which was electronic computer music research and technology. And so, back before they do what you guys do with video, it was really easy to do with digital audio because the amount of data and everything. Non-linear editing, that's to saying just like you do with a word processor with audio, was possible and easy long before it was with video. And so I studied that and went off into, at that point, it was the end or the middle of the CD-ROM craze. There was a CD-ROM called Mist, and it sort of started this mad craziness where all these companies sprung up trying to make the next Mist because it actually made money, making all CD-ROMs. And then the internet came swooping right in there, and so I went on in my 30s to work for major media doing stuff associated with the web, especially audio first and then video. And then on into video editing. So pretty much all my 30s was working in the DC area. We have the Discovery Channel, which has 15 other channels that are associated with it, National Geographic, and my last thing I did in that career was National Public Radio.
Okay.
I hear from our viewers all the time while we're not on Discovery Channel. I don't know what to tell them. Picture me in 41 minutes. That would be, what, a third of the show?
I haven't
Next week there'll be more. Part 3 of part 1.
80 by the time I got a car done.
That's right. We're on part 21 of part 1 here.
Yeah, they got rules and stuff. We don't have any of that.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of my portion of my career was even managing a whole group of editors who our entire job was to go into any one of the programs in the library, even like things like Lassie, and take out 30 seconds.
Okay.
They don't care what 30 seconds you take out. Just take out 30 seconds.
Take out 30.
So it fits.
So they could fit another 30-second commercial in. Yeah.
Jeez.
Spent years doing that. Yeah.
It sounds like great fun.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Got the good
We
30
have,
seconds.
we have more fun with it. We call it video on the run. We just kind of do what we want to do and edit it however we want to
Or
edit
not,
it and upload it to Amazon, and that's what you get. And
You can edit it yourself.
so now I'm told, or you've mentioned, that you're actually considering another career with the electric car.
Yeah, it just seems like the time is here. It's so many reasons. It's the right thing to do. It's a patriotic thing to do. It just, we just need to, and I have a 7-year-old son. I just need to get off of, burning things. And they're just fun. And
they're just
They are.
That's right.
They're a blast.
I just
That's
got
the part we never get through the camera. Is there's
Yeah.
all kinds of reasons, and I'm mad, and we shouldn't send money overseas, and it puts out stuff that isn't good to breathe. We know that because you kill yourself with one in a closed garage.
locking it.
pretty
Right.
easily, yeah.
But mostly it's because it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a blast.
And so you see developing some sort of a product for electric cars, or converting electric cars, or what's your?
I've given a lot of thought to that, and we'll talk about that tonight. But first, so I'm officially on the hook. if you bring a finished electric car to the convention in September, which doesn't give me much time, you could pay this is 5 cents, you owe me a nickel, but $5.95. So I'm officially going to give this to Jack. So now I am officially on the hook.
Signed up for the convention.
Because I have, if you read in the stuff I've put together, I have a Porsche 914. When I got the sucker, it just ran. I didn't ask for it to run, and it just was fun. So I drove it around for a year and a half, and then I took it out this spring, and the 38-year-old plus minus fuel line rubber dry rotted and just
finally broke.
threw gasoline all over it. It's not another reason to get off of gasoline cars. Threw this very volatile substance all over the top of the motor, and it caught on fire. And I can tell you, you know your car's on fire when you run out of it over back to the gas station convenience store at this point, and the clerk meets you at the door with a fire extinguisher and hands it to you, and neither of you say a syllable.
It's just a given.
You're going to be needing this.
It's the communication.
So, and it was lucky because literally it was well on its way to being a barbecue and losing the whole thing in the interior and just giving up on that car. Was able to put it out. It did burn there's a rain guard to keep rain off the motor, and there's the motor lid, and of course the whole top of the motor and all that stuff that I don't need anymore, but I was hoping to sell that motor. It ran really well, but oh well. So that really kicked me into gear. At that point I put in the application to you guys, but there's 1,000 people and I never expected I would be a finalist, so I just started accumulating parts. And now I have pretty much everything I need, except for a few instrumentation things, and so I just really got to officially have to get going to get this thing out here by mid-September.
You were nominated by Josh Stillwalt.
At the recharge car.
Recharge car.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I've been talking with Josh, and he's hopefully I'll be a beta tester on his Autoblock piece of technology, and also purchase his that's one of the instruments I have to buy is his.
I liked
RPM.
what they were proposing, but he's been supposed to send me one for 8 months. I don't know how quickly he's moving forward with that. So I haven't even seen a prototype yet, but I liked what they were talking about.
Some nice
essentially, series of USB connected, I guess, instruments to measure various things, and we certainly need that.
Absolutely.
I'm working with Bruce Sherry even today as we speak on a similar device that Bruce Sherry Designs is doing, and will be available through Manzanita, I guess. My good friend Rich Redmond, he's a big admirer. Ever since
Rich Redmond
cratered the sales of his Redmond regulators. But anyway, BMS'd them. Well, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're trailing a bit in the race at the moment.
Oh, I am. And what's funny is have gotten things like wonderful articles in the paper. Trouble is, people who read the paper don't go on the internet that much.
They're waiting for this to hit
Well,
the front porch.
the ones that read it online, I guess, can just click on it.
Yeah, but no, everybody in the small town talks at length to me about my car project, but they don't go vote for me.
They don't go for you.
That's right.
Well, it appears the guys that are winning are campaigning pretty hard.
Yeah.
But I thought with your video background, we'd see more video about your project. I can tell you, I was on eBay looking at 914s yesterday. I'd looked at yours this week because I knew you were coming. And then, of course, we just included a whole build video from Richard Rodriguez in San Diego in last week's show. He has a baby blue Targa. And I got to tell you, when I look at the room you guys have got for batteries, you need to look inside the Speedster and see where
you
we
crammed
have
them.
them.
Yeah.
I know.
Because it was
Stuffed.
non-trivial. We don't have any place like that.
No.
No place.
Just big squarish
Right?
openings.
Just blocks of
Drop 'em in,
space.
yeah.
Acres and acres.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and it's in photo form on the website. But yeah, I can. And
And with a Target top, you could conceivably heat and cool it. Speedster's a little tough.
It's a little leaky.
A little leaky. We have done some February test drives.
Oh, yeah.
You, Brian, took you, let you drive the Spider and the Speedster. What did you think?
Oh, very, very, very fun. Yeah, just I knew, and you know, in theory how fun an electric car was, but that really set it home, and it really drove home what we always talk about. Like, people always ask me, well, you're spending whatever I'm going to spend on this project, $35,000 for a high-performance Porsche, which is chump change. You know, what's your payback? Like, when are you going to get your money back versus the gasoline version? And you know, so then you get out your calculator and you figure price of gas and the price of electricity and how many. The payback is about 6 seconds after you push on that gas pedal. And I learned that today firsthand, and I didn't even push it all the way down.
No,
That's not a golf cart, is
no.
it?
Oh, hell no. It's you know, and like I said, I didn't go
This
anywhere
surprises
near.
people.
Yeah.
That's our only point of reference for most of us. What an electric vehicle is a golf cart.
Right.
And golf carts are fun to drive, so they're on board. But they normally have a governor at 13 miles an hour to keep you from tearing up the golf course.
Spilling down off the fairway on your head.
It always was possible to make an electric car that'll go like scat. What we couldn't do until about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, was make them go far.
Right.
Because we didn't have the batteries.
Absolutely.
And so that's what our whole gig is about. And I still get a lot of lead people that don't want to be left behind, but they've been left behind. Lead doesn't matter anymore. We got a better way now.
Right.
There is a price to play, but it makes a car viable. 100-mile range here in Cape Girardeau. It's 4 or 5 days between charges.
And like you said, with the 914, I have purchased and plan to put in 60 200 amp cells into this car. And I don't know if you guys have played with it. They're GBS cells.
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
we did.
In fact, we melted
some down. Yeah.
4 of their new 200 amp hour cells. They were testing very well.
Yeah, not their fault.
I filmed the whole thing, and then my wife came and took me to dinner, and I had it on a charger at a very low level. And she took me out and got me liquored up and told me how pretty I was. And we came home,
thing
and
led to another.
somehow I forgot entirely about this battery on the charger. The next day, Trace came in and, oh my God, your back garage is going to burn down. And I went out there and we'll show it to you. It was slag.
It's slag.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I want to.
And it was our fault. It wasn't the batteries
We've
at all.
learned a lot about batteries and car fires, and have tracked a number of car fires, almost all of which involve severe overcharging of the same nature, and usually caused by a battery management system. And so we've made a great deal of that. But as Mark points out, he had a fire in a gasoline car, and in fact, the number of reportable vehicle fires in the United States that caused a fire department to show up, and thus a report was made, which yours wasn't.
No, actually, the police came.
Oh, did they?
The fire came.
Then there was a report, and you would be included in this, is about 785 vehicle fires a day.
A day, yeah.
So that an electric car burns down is not a damning of either the batteries or the car. I think they're fairly preventable. And very few of them happen on the road. It's mostly in the garage.
In the garage, yeah.
At night, charging. But that's that. So you're underway on the Porsche. You're going to bring the Porsche out in September.
There's my 6.
That's
$595.
The 595 may have been a tactical error. We've had a couple of people drop out, and they didn't have enough skin in the game. At $5.95. But
I'm gonna
this happened or that happened, and so now they can't make it. But I think we're at 108 right now, and about 30-something cars.
Okay.
Trust me, transporting that car.
And it's not August yet.
no,
It's
right,
the end of
right,
September
right.
is the show.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we're going to have, but it should be several hundred anyway. We just added a speaker, Paul Lin from Taipei City in Taiwan. He's the guy we are doing the Cobra for.
Cobra
What I
project.
didn't know is he's actually built a 40-foot electric boat, and it's in service
Didn't
there
know
in the
that.
harbor.
Wow, really?
Yes, he's got his master's degree at the University of California, Irvine.
That's what you were saying.
Which is
UCI.
why he seems curiously easy to communicate with.
Yes.
He's kind of one of Brian's homeboys.
Yeah, he's an anteater.
Valley guy.
He's an anteater. UCI mascot.
And, so he has gotten all excited about the Cobra and is going to come to the convention and do a session on what they're doing in Asia and why he wants to import electric Cobras and what's happening in
That'll
China
be interesting, yeah.
with the electric cars. And so I think that'll be quite fascinating. They burned down a few buses over there
Yes.
and some taxis.
Just recently, yeah.
And so
Same thing, charging back at the.
No, these were driving.
Yeah, they're driving, yeah.
I don't know what that was about.
I didn't hear, no.
I don't get enough information to know. So, good. I'm very pleased you're coming to the convention and bringing your Porsche. This is going to be the largest assemblage of electric Porsches, if nothing else.
I know
Yeah.
nothing in the world, that's right.
We're going to have two 914s, a 904, at least 3 Speedsters, and a Spider. All electric. And so, and we're going to have races.
Yeah.
Autocross and a drag race. And in fact, we're having going to sponsor a EVTV unless someone sponsors it out from under us. Just so
Okay, to sell that?
but the EVTV Open right now is going to be a $2,500 winner take all. Has to be a, what do you call it?
Full
a
body.
full-body four-wheel car.
Yeah, lithium powered.
And lithium powered. And $2,500 purse. So we're going to have a good time at the convention. Now this, you've already eyeing your second car and haven't got this one really rolling yet.
Yeah, how do you like that? So I asked my wife, since if I win, and please vote for me, what car, any car, ever made in history, would you want for me to convert for you? And she said, really, with hardly any, and she's not a car nut or anything, hardly any hesitation, one of those early model BMWs.
Okay,
And you
like
talk-
like a 2002?
2002 TII.
Sure.
Anybody
Okay.
that knows these cars, just
Oh, yeah,
like
absolutely. I know them. They're
this
great
is-
cars.
It's been an obscure thing to me. I never even thought about it, whatever. And so people like that will just come up with this, this exact model number, and they're like, "Yep." And so I found one in Arizona, and it was supposed to be here today, and sorry, it's not here. It's having air conditioning. Why it didn't have air conditioning, I don't know, but it's having air conditioning putting on it, and that's proving to be more challenging than originally thought. It's a lot of aftermarket new stuff in terms of the compressor and all that, but the real setback has been driving the compressor off the crankshaft, and currently it has a two pulley on the front, two separate pulley on the front of the crankshaft, and it needs a third spot for
off
the belt
crank, it needs another
to
belt.
drive that compressor. And
We're going through that on the Cadillac Escalade.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I
But
know
we've
what
got
you're
a
up to.
whip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got a beat.
You got it?
Well, it's $3,600 for a plate. And
I went and looked at it. It's got that one multi-V serpentine. Very, very elegant. Very nice.
yeah, I think that'll work pretty well. But I'm stunned that you found a BMW in Arizona without air conditioning. What's that about?
I know.
And I was told
It's from Alaska.
well, I was told that the people with these cars are really into performance, and they don't. The reason why it doesn't have air conditioning is because it was all about shaving off the few pounds and the rest of it. But it's a beautiful car.
Good.
There's pictures of it on my website.
Yeah, we'll put up some pictures of your 914 and the BMW. And so what with the 914 and the BMW project, we have 10 finalists. What could you say that would inspire me to? And by the way, I haven't voted yet.
No, I haven't either.
vote for you in the 10. We obviously nominated a couple.
Yeah.
I probably ought to vote for one of them, but I'm
don't
I'm still
have to.
free, white, and 21. I can
Yeah,
vote for who
that's
I
right,
want
that's
to.
right.
Well, why would where are you going to take if we give you this pile of batteries and a motor? We have a net gain Warp 9 motor, the
Yes.
latest model. A Soliton 1 controller. You did express a preference for the Speedster part Redux over the Spider. That was because of
Push you back in the seat. And Put a smile on your face.
Well, we've got that rig as
that's the
part
one
of the
that's in the-
contest.
Yeah.
That's a net gain Warp 9 and a Soliton 1.
Yeah.
And
1,000 amp controller.
it has 57 of the same batteries, Cal 180s.
Yes.
We're only going to award 50, so you're going to be 6.7 instead of 6.5 seconds.
Yeah, right.
And let's see, a case of Stag beer,
Case
a
of Stag.
magnetic pickup from Recharge Car, and an air conditioning unit.
Yeah.
Right, from
Very important.
from Master
From
Flux.
Masterflux, and I will demonstrate that for you while you're here. Being as it's a hot day, you notice I let Brian take you in the Speedster.
I did
and the
notice that.
Spider. I'll take you
Jack's
in the
such
Mini, which is
such
air
a pal.
conditioned, and it'll actually run you out of the car.
It blows pretty cold.
It's nice and cool. I like the creature comforts. Brian likes to race, and so there you go.
Yeah, that's how you get a 2002 with no air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, it's through great pain. It's having air conditioning. So if I win, the air conditioning component of the of the contest will go into the 914, and we build the 2002. It'll have its own new compressor that we're spending lots of money and time and effort on. And I've just given a lot of thought. I'm not like these inventors in Oxford making new equipment, and I'm not going to. I'm not interested in really, getting into the import business, and I'm not really interested in honestly, in building these cars for a living, although I might accidentally building a couple. And so I'm just trying to look at the whole picture and trying to project what's going to happen and what's going to be needed. And I find that interesting, just to take a sidetrack in terms of my industry and the wine industry. In Pennsylvania, there's a couple of wineries that have just sort of stumbled into out of necessity. So there's all this very unique equipment and stuff that you use in making wine, be they clamps and hoses and yeast and chemicals and on and on. And so this one winery, instead of ordering 5 of the clamps from California, they ordered 10, and then the next winery next to them said, "Hey, I'm gonna buy those 5 clamps." And that just sort of snowballed until now they're literally like the East Coast premier supplier of wine supplies. I mean, you can get it from the West Coast, but why not just call you guys in Pennsylvania and next day ground?
Right.
Boom. And so that's what I use. They're called Presque Isle, and they're a winery, although I would dare say that probably 80% of their profits are from running this supply company.
Wow.
And 20%. But it is really nice because they are a winery, and so you can call up and talk to literally the winemaker and say, I need to either solve this problem or I want to use X product, and what's to expect, and what do you do with it, and what are the, can you go through some calculations about, how much do I add per 1,000 gallons versus 2,000, and so that's really nice. And there's another example in Pennsylvania of a guy that oftentimes when you go to a winery, you'll buy 3 bottles and they have a nice little box. You put it in and it folds out and it has cardboard things, windows, you can see the wine, cardboard goes between, they don't rattle, and you get your logo printed on it and all that. Again, a Pennsylvania winery needed some boxes, has the boxes, and the neighboring winery said, can you make some, and now he has this whole, we buy tons of boxes from him, so do every winery on the East Coast. So what are going to be these things in necessity? And one thing is what do I need right now? I mean, I'm sitting here, I got $22,000 worth of very expensive car parts, very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. I would love if there's somewhere I could go and take a hands-on course. I mean, if I got $22,000 invested in that, another whatever in the car, why not spend $1,500 and go somewhere for a week and get some really detailed instruction and hands-on experience? And I'm hoping to present that at the conference and see if I can get some takers. I have some really great local assets, and one is the local community college has in works development of sort of a green class. It's a separate building. It's going to be a green classroom. It's going to have it's already got an anemometer collecting data on wind, but they're going to put a windmill and put solar all over it and have a couple classrooms and teach with sort of, as a community college would, with practical hands-on teaching for people to go get into those industries, installing solar and so on. So a natural adjunct to that would be building electric cars. And so I've already met with the professor in charge of that, and he's really into putting together not a curriculum that would be for a degree, an AA degree, but it's a lot easier and cheaper to put it just a certificate degree. It's not a degree, it's just a certificate. You accomplished this. And then also we have, it's really interesting, it's called the MEBA, or Marine Engineers Beneficial Association, which is sort of the folks, when the ship is out in the middle of the sea, it has an engineer on it, if not more than one, and anything that breaks, they got to fix it. And they got to know computers, they got to know electrical systems, they got to know mechanical systems, they have to know how the ship works, and they got to fix it. And including, like, there may be a one of those cargo things that has a cooling unit on it that's 5 things up, and they have to climb up because the cargo in there, it has to be cooled, or you lose it, and it's could be hundreds and hundreds of thousands worth of cargo. So I've talked to these guys about, in a swaying sea 5 stories up, fixing one of these air conditioning units on a container. So they have this facility, which is beautiful. It's right in my backyard, right on the waterfront. Really beautiful facility, where all these engineers all over the world come and take further training. So they have, not only do they have a state-of-the-art machine shop, they have 20 of them in a row for 20 students to do whatever a week's worth of courses on fixing X, Y, or Z. And they have ship simulators, which is amazing. You go into a room, you have a full console, it looks like you're on a ship, really does.
Mark, I'm kind of glazing over here now. You were bringing grapes on a skipjack. And now we've got a build school on a ship bringing you wine business parts.
No.
From Prescott Isle.
So the whole idea is to establish a...
Yeah, bring it all back.
Bring it all together. Establish a school where you can go get hands-on experience. Let's say there's 10 students. One of the students, you build their car. So they don't pay any tuition. And you have...
How long does the school go?
Well, that's another part about this thing I'm long-winded about, that because they have these engineers come from, they have a hotel built into the facility. And it has good food, and it's nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can come from anywhere in the world and go and spend a week there, or maybe as new things develop, maybe you'll have intensives on maybe that Oxford motor. You'll have a 2-day class on that or something.
That's how the convention started. Eric Chris suggested a 3-day build school,
Right.
like they do at Factory 5. My personal take on that was it kind of, we could do that, but it kind of gives the wrong impression, and that's that you can and should convert a car in 3 days, and people have done these in 24 hours at a thing. They didn't look like very good conversions to me. My main theme is, I think there's a huge battle to cars are very much part of our identity and our culture. And to get people to accept something that radically different is going to be a task. Now, the people that come here and we show them the car and let them ride in it, we get a very dramatic reaction. But it's, so I think this exposing people to an electric car, once you've driven one, you want one. I mean, it's pretty simple. But we do that with pretty nice rolling stock. And so the message in a 3-day build school would be the wrong one. Now, Brian and I used to do trade shows, and in fact, we do over 200 educational sessions in 3.5 days.
It was
so
brutal.
we can do that, but I didn't want to actually build a car. The problem is once you get it rolling, there's 3 months of cigarette lighter, gear shift knob, clock, window, instrumentation and just little things
Yeah.
you do to your car.
And definitely my focus wasn't a 3-day thing, but a much longer, week, 2-week, with the facility there to
No, I
accommodate that.
think
Yeah.
it's a good idea. I was just saying
Yeah.
it's not a good idea for me.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I think
I don't-
it has a place. Yeah.
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 But that's where the convention started, was Eric Chris was suggesting we do this for 10 or 15 people. And I actually redid this room. We've got an overhead projector and a thing that will act as a screen and a wireless thing where we can do all that without cables and so forth. This was going to be the classroom.
Yeah, this is going to be it.
It outgrew it the first week. We had 50 people signed up, and that would probably be uncomfortable in here.
Yeah.
And so now we're in an aircraft hangar, which will work somewhat better for that. But that's how it started out. So I think the idea's got a lot of life.
I do too.
And
I don't think that money could be made at it, and that's not my drive in life, or even interest. And so the sort of the net, you could build, you could build a car, you could build. My interest is building an army of people to build cars.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep. Well, there you go. There's Mark making his plea, guys.
he has a lot to say, and at some length.
Yes.
I thought I was windy.
Jack may have a challenger.
Yeah, this could be the show. We don't have a show that runs 4.5 hours.
That's right. This would be the one, you guys.
I'm not sure I can upload all that.
No, that's right.
I'll edit it.
We might
down.
take the internet down.
There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, and we've had now, what has that been? What, 5, 6 of our finalists come out here now? Did you guys have been able to see them make their
David
play?
Hrivnak will be here Monday,
Oh, good. We got another one on Monday coming down.
and
Okay.
he'll be in to from Tennessee
Okay, we
to
got
show
another one on
his
Monday. Okay, good.
pickup truck and with the net gain EMA system in it,
Yep.
and to talk about his plans if he wins the thing. So that'll be pretty good.
Good. All right. Really good. Well, good luck to all of you. And the object is you vote now. It's in your hands out there. If you haven't voted yet for your favorite contestant.
As they say, vote early and often.
Early and
don't,
often.
don't vote often. One
That's
vote
right, just
first.
early. What else we got? Well, we had a little thing here, again, hybrids. And the only reason I'm saying this is because they just set a Guinness record for the longest hybrid parade. In Madison, Wisconsin, they had 208, I guess. They beat one in Belgium last year, the 140 cars. I think we need a parade of lithium-ion powered electric cars in the Guinness Book of World Records. I think we're getting pretty close.
I'm gonna pass.
Oh, you can't do it. All right. Well, you guys do it.
Yeah, whatever you want to do about the hybrids. It's
Yeah, I'm tired of the hybrids.
no, it's I mean it's fine, and to some degree, anything anybody does is a good thing.
Yeah.
I just have zero interest.
No interest.
I think it's a dumb idea. It's a
Complicated
stopgap,
system.
half-step measure. You wind up with the disadvantages of both technologies piled into the same car.
Yeah, and
I
you
don't-
still get to go to the dealer a lot.
Don't bring it to me and want me to fix it. It's
right.
just, it's a mess. I don't do hybrids. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of them. To me, that's a gasoline engine that they figured out a way to make a little more efficient.
Yeah.
This is akin, to me, understand, to we're running out of whale oil. Here, I've got an idea. Here's what we'll do. We'll we'll build a bunch of concrete pins up and down the East Coast, and we'll raise little baby whales and release them into the wild, and then we'll go hunt them and get
Farm 'em.
whales.
That's where we'll get them later.
And that'll give us more whales.
Yeah.
And it'll end the shortage of whales. Sure.
Yeah, it would, I guess.
The
That's
one
why
thing I do agree with Shah Agassi, and this guy, I wish I had his press agent. He's everywhere, and it's the dumbest idea in the world, this better place thing. But he is, I don't know that he coined this, but he's spreading it around. We did not leave the Stone Age because we ran out of stones.
Yeah,
That was not the deal.
That's true.
And so similarly, we didn't leave the Bronze Age because we ran out of bronze. We discovered
moved
we
on.
could make iron,
Yeah, we
and it
just
was
moved
stronger.
on. Yeah.
So when you find something better, you move on.
right.
And we found something better, and it's time to move on.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
No going back.
Let's.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to shoot this. It's a little painting, watching paint dry, and we're doing it in the heat. But I've got a little battery thing I want to show them.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
All right.
NetGain Motors, home of the Warp, Transwarp, and Impulse motors, introduced the improved Warp 9 motor. The Warp 9 is a 9 1/4 diameter series wound DC motor with a double-ended shaft featuring 26 improvements for 2010. Externally, the terminal studs have been enlarged from 3/8 to 1/2 inch diameter. Bigger is better. On the inside, a larger commutator, new brush composition, and split brush design with heavier springs handle even higher voltages and currents than before. Our new fan increases airflow by almost 50% over typical paddle-style fans. And all this translates into improved performance. For even more performance or larger applications, take a look at NetGain's Warp 11 motor, an 11 3/4 diameter series wound DC motor for even greater torque and power. Since 2002, NetGain Motors has been leading the EV industry with precision, performance, and price. Visit us at go-ev.com. NetGain Motors, warp power to go.
It's quite warm. We're going to have a little bit of a fan here, and it's 100 degrees, even here in the shop. I thought we'd do a little bit more battery stuff. If you'll recall, we pulled a battery out of a box that was 2.5 years old and measured the voltages on it and found that all of them seemed to be at almost exactly the same state of charge. We're at 3.2989 volts, and that corresponds to about a 60% state of charge. I've heard a lot of nattering online about our test, and of course the little magpies that sit on the telephone line and carpet everything anybody does had all sorts of great visionary theories of what we were doing wrong with that, which was kind of difficult because we didn't do very much, which they pointed out. We didn't just test the capacity and didn't know this and didn't know that. I spend a lot more time with the batteries than I quite do with the video camera. I know quite a bit more about them than you all quite get to see. So if anybody mentions to you what I do and what I don't do, let me assure you they don't have any idea. But I thought this might make an interesting experiment because some of them have gone so far as to make ridiculous statements that voltage is not related to state of charge, and apparently it's all a mystery to them. So I thought we could do a simple experiment since it's so hot. I can't hardly do anything in the shop. And let's just map a cell. If you'll recall, we had one cell we hadn't done anything to. We worked with these three, and I've got one that's relatively untouched. It's kind of right out of the box. So it would make a good test. Let's charge it up from here and see how many amp hours it takes. I've got Bruce Sherry's state of charge head here, kind of in a third or fourth version, and it's proving kind of handy. I can put up on the screen here, I've got it in big font, so perhaps you can see some of it on camera, where we can watch the amp hours and the current and so forth. Of course, I've got my constant current loads over here. What I want to do, When we bought these batteries, the charge voltage spec was 4.2 volts. It's 3.8 now. We charged at 3.65. I'm going to charge this up to 4 volts. I want to see what the full capacity of this cell is. And so we're going to charge it to 4 volts, which should be safely under 100% charge, but it'll be pretty full. And then, this being a 90 amp hour cell, we're going to take the current out of it 9 amp hours at a time. That's 10% increments. And we're going to stop the process, let the battery rest for exactly 10 minutes, and measure the voltage at each level. And you'll see why, number one, we don't use voltage very much as a gas gauge, but you will see that it's very directly related to the state of charge of the cell and what the voltage of the cell is actually supposed to be. When we charge it to 4 volts, we're then going to let it rest about 30 minutes, and you'll see that it'll be well under 3.4 volts. We had, of course, David Andrea with a fascinating new video series with no information, but some wild theories of how he thinks batteries work that are just too precious. So this will kind of debunk this. These cells, lithium iron phosphate cells, not cobalt oxide, not manganese oxide, but iron phosphate cells, have an open circuit voltage fully charged of 3.4 volts. And then we'll take it down in 10% increments with a rest between each of them and record our voltage all the way to the bottom and see how many amp hours remain in this 2.5-year-old cell and see if we lost any. And so that should be a pretty good test. So the first thing we're going to do is crank up our big power supply. This one can do up to 200 amps, actually. And in fact, we'll crank it up to there. And I'm going to leave it on there. Let's see if we're recording our amp hours. We are. We've already put 0.75 amp hours in. I'm going to set this right at 200 amps of current. And recall these cells can be safely charged up to 3C, or 270 amps. And we'll leave it at 200 amps until it gets up to a voltage of 4 volts. So we're showing about 3.65 volts on this, and we're putting in at 200 amps. And as this voltage comes up, when we hit 4 volts, we'll start tapering down that current until we get down to 0.05 C, which is about 4.5 amps going into the cell. And then that will be fully charged, and we'll let it rest at that point, and then measure our open circuit voltage. Kind of like watching paint dry. We're at 395 volts and climbing quickly. We have put in 36.24 amps. If we were at 50% charge, we'd be at about 81 amp hours right now. So, and we're at 4 volts. I'm going to start cutting down our current, and to hold that at 4 volts. That's 150 amps. I'm back to 4 volts. Let's turn her down to 138. I'm at 4 volts. Let's turn her down to 125. I'm at 4 volts. Let's crank her down to 112, 107. I'm at 4 volts. 103, I'm right below at 3999. and it's dropping fast. You notice how far I got in the charge. I'm at 39 amp hours added to what was probably a 50 or 60% state of charge. And we went at 200 amps up to plus 36, which if we'd have been at 50% or 45 amp hours, that would have been 81 out of 90 amp hours at 200 amps. So you can charge these batteries quite quickly, and you'll get to most of the level. I'm at 75 amps now, 399, and climbing. And so it tapers off actually pretty quickly when you charge this way. But in the future, we're going to be charging at higher currents, hopefully, of level 3 charging, as much as 300 amps. And we'll be able to charge our batteries much faster than we can now. Let me turn my wind tunnel down where you can hear me a little bit. We're back at 3.98 volts and 59 amps. And it'll taper off a little more slowly now, but not much. There's 53 amps at 3.98. It's quite warm here. If I check my voltage here, I have 4.06 volts, but I have 4 volts there at 50 amps. The reason for that is this is measuring right at the terminals with very high impedance probes, so there's no current there. And my state of charge head is measuring back here at the shunt and over at the end of that cable. Recall we've had, I'm down to 29 amps, we've had several situations with chargers where the charger cannot accurately measure the voltage because it's measuring it inside the charger and now not accounting for the drop across the cables, which is fairly insignificant, but at high currents winds up being 4 or 5 volts difference. Well, you don't want a 4 or 5 volt difference on a 4 volt cell, for one thing, but even on a larger pack, you need to be able to set an accurate switch point voltage where it goes from constant current to constant voltage and then holds that voltage accurately. We have put in 42.65 amp hours. I'm guessing this is going to come out about 45 amp hours before I'm really full. We'll see here. We're at 3.959 volts, 31 amps, and our voltage is climbing. We're down to 30 amps. I'm in constant voltage mode here on my power supply. It can't keep up. It's not that good at holding a constant voltage, but it's doing some. It's dropped me down to 29 amps. I'm at 3.973, still climbing. Now you notice we didn't hit 4 volts at 200 amps and shut off the charger. This tapering, holding the voltage and adding decreasing amounts of current to maintain that voltage, is an important part of our charge curve. We're down to 17 amps. We're up over 4 volts. I'm going to nudge it down just a little bit. I'm going to hold this 4 volts, 16 amps. We get down to 5 amps, we're about done. They say 0.05C. We're at 3.999 volts, 13 amps. 45.01, so we're pretty much finished. Here's 10 amperes, 11 amperes. We have put 46.18 amps in that cell. If my theory is correct, they ship them at 50% state of charge, and there's no real self-discharge. Over the 2.5 years this battery is laid around in garages, 100 degree heat, 0 degree Fahrenheit cold, on its side, upside down, right side up, in the box. These batteries look brand new to me. I don't see any difference in their state of charge from the voltages we get with brand new ones at 3.30 volts. And I'll show you what that means in a minute. And we clearly have every bit of the capacity that it was manufactured with. We're at 4 volts here, 3.9966, 6 amps of charge, 46.28 amp hours, and we're just trickling in at a very low rate now. I'm going to declare this fully charged, shut down the power supply. As you can see, my voltage immediately starts to plummet. It's going to continue to settle. This is that diffusion layer in our active material, primarily on the cathode, and a surface charge that, despite the battery expert, Mr. Andrea's admonition, doesn't mean anything. Our true voltage will be somewhere below 3.4 volts. And we're going to let that rest for 30 minutes or an hour and get it down there and then begin our test.
Masterflux proudly presents the Sierra Series brushless DC variable speed electric compressors. The Masterflux family of compressors are up to 40% smaller and lighter than competing belt-driven DC automotive compressors. Masterflux uses rare earth neodymium magnets for longer life and greater efficiency. The robust rotary design is ideally suited for rugged EV applications. With a scroll-type compressor, the process begins with the refrigerant entering the evaporator from the suction side. Refrigerant then travels through a reed valve to the top of the compressor, where it is compressed at up to 8 times the incoming pressure before exiting out the discharge tube to the condenser. Masterflux compressors are available in 400 to 15,000 BTU per hour capacity range for multiple refrigerants, including 134A. Output can be manually adjusted using a simple 0 to 5 volt pot. Masterflux compressors are available to handle input voltages of 12 to 420 volts DC and come with a specific BLDC motor controller for each voltage range. The new Masterflux 2011 product catalog can be downloaded from their website at www.masterflux.com. Masterflux products are available in the US from Revolt Custom Electric Vehicles, in Australia from EV Works, and in South Asia from EV World. Masterflux, the technically elegant choice for powerful electric air conditioning.
It's about an hour later. We've let this kind of bleed off. We're at 3.3862 volts, which is right under our 3.40 open circuit voltage for a LiFePO 4 cell. So we're just a little bit less than 100% charged. Normally, when we charge them to 3.625 on average, I would say we'll see 332, 333, sometimes 334, 3.34 volts on what we're declaring a fully charged cell. Somewhat under the 3.4, as this is at 3.38. I've zeroed out our amp hours here, and I've set up 2 constant current loads over here. We're going to adjust these for 45 amps each, and that'll be 90 amps total. I'm going to turn this on. I'm not too concerned about how long we take. I'm going to take 0.9 amp hours, and our rate is not critical. I just want it to be at a regular rate and a fairly normal one for capacity measurement of 1C. They normally rate these in capacity at 0.5C, but there's not much difference anyway. And 1C will do it. And what we're going to measure here is our amp hour output until we get to 9 amperes. That's 10% discharge, or a 90% state of charge. And we abbreviate those DOD, depth of discharge. We're going to go to 10% depth of discharge, or DOD. And our cells will then be at about 90% state of charge, or SOC. I guess I'm going to need a pen and something to write on here. The latest in automated test equipment is a piece of cardboard box and a ballpoint pen. As I've said a number of times, it's not that I can't set it up, although my curiosity goes to different things at different times. But you kind of get a feel for these batteries and notice things doing it fairly manually. Now, you may not want to invest in 6,000 watts of constant current load, 3 power supplies, switches, and so forth. But you can do this on a smaller scale with a DVM and an amp meter pretty easily. We're at 3.49 amp hours. I think we started at 100%. And 3.3865, let's say, volts. And we're going to go to 9 amp hours, which will be 90%. And when we do this, of course, we get some sag. We're at 3.23 volts right now from the current, 90 amperes. That'll recover quite quickly, but we're going to give it a uniform 5 minutes rest time. So we're taking the same rest time between each current draw and when we take our voltage. And that's because that voltage will continue to go up slowly over more time. It doesn't matter what we pick, but we need to have, we can do 10 minutes, we can do an hour after the thing, but we need to do the same amount of time to get kind of an accurate curve. I don't want to go over here now, so we have to start measuring a little more actively. Bruce's state of charge head, I don't know how I feel about this. I kind of like the things that just transmit iteratively. This one you have to query, but that would let me write some software that's much more efficient and uses a lot less of the computer's time. It would simply query for amp hours and then copy them rather than having them transmitted so we're coming up on 8. So I'm going to have to query more often now. 8.26, 8.36, 8.59, that's 8.8, 8.89. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off because there's a little time delay there for that to go out. What did we wind up at? 9 exactly. Hey, am I good or what? And so now we're going to take our little iPhone, go to the clock, stopwatch, start, and I'm going to give that 5 minutes. And at the end of 5 minutes, we'll write down the voltage that's on the voltmeter. We're coming up on 5 minutes. I've got 3.3272. I'm going to write that down. And we'll turn on our load again. Again, I don't care how long it'll be on. I kind of know how long it'll be on because we're going to do it at 1C, 90 amperes. We're looking for 18 amp hours total gone, which will give us an 80% state of charge and a 20% depth of discharge, or DOD. And we're at 9.83 amp hours. Let me reset my stopwatch. And we're down at 3.22. This is meaningless for this test. It's our voltage under a 90 amp hour load. And we tested that the last time. See what our sag voltage was at even 5C. This time, we're going to map our static voltage to state of charge. And I want to show you that it's actually quite meaningful. It is a curve, and so it's not linear like a lead acid cell. And it takes some time to stabilize. Imagine pulling up to a stoplight and parking there for 5 minutes, waiting for your voltage to stabilize, see where you're at on the curve. And so it doesn't make a very good gas gauge, but it is, of course, our main indicator of state of charge. And anyone who makes a statement in the forums that you can't tell state of charge by voltage is a moron. That's how you tell state of charge. That's one way to tell. The other way is to measure amp hours, which is what we're doing here. We're at minus 12, looking for minus 18. 1727, 1736, 1745, 1758, 66, 75, 82, and let's shut this off and start our timer. And we're right at 17.98. That's pretty close. And as you can see, our voltage is 3.284 something, but rising quickly. And we'll give that 5 minutes and see what's going on there. And so at 5 minutes, we are at 3.3149, I think. And we're going to turn our load back on. And of course, we're looking for 27 amp hours. Let me crank that into the laptop. Maybe I can make you a little graph. After 27 amperes, at the end of 5 minutes rest, we've got 3.2999. 35.73, 35.82, 35.88. Let's shut her down and start our clock. And we are right at 35.99 amp hours. So our 5 minutes, we're at 3.2907. I'm going to turn on our load. And we're looking for 45 amps, which will represent a 50% state of charge. Okay, we're coming up on 45 amp hours. There's 75, 82, 91. Let's shut her off. Start our timer. We're looking for 5 minutes. And we're right at 45 amp hours. We can already see, and we're going to go through this whole thing, but voltage is actually a very good indicator of state of charge. The problem is it's in the hundreds and the thousands of volts. Now, if you have a 36 cell pack, as I do in DUH, you'll read this as, you start out at 121 or 122 volts. I go to 119.77 at 90%, 119.33 at 80%, 118.79 at 70%, 118.46 at 60%. You see, this doesn't really make a very good gas gauge until we get further down the curve, which is where you want to know about your gas gauge. So I do monitor voltage fairly closely in the vehicle. However, it's not a very good gas gauge. Is it a good indication of state of charge? Yes, actually it is. If I take a cell out of the box that I received the day before, and it reads 3.300 volts, and I take a cell out that's been there for 2.5 years, and it reads 3.300 volts, they're pretty much at the same state of charge. If they're shipping them after some automated testing that terminates at exactly the same place, let's say 50%, then we pretty much demonstrated that over 2.5 years of varying temperatures, there is no self-discharge. There is no cell drift. And you can see from these numbers, they're going to be very regular. The problem is you need a pretty good meter to be able to tell it, because we're in the hundreds and the thousands of a volt where it matters. It's not that it's at 3.3 volts both times. That's an indication. It's that it's at 3.300 volts that makes a difference. And a 3.299 is pretty close. And so we can tell to that level, and voltage is very much an indication of the state of charge of your cells. However, the nature of the cells is such that if you discharge current, there's a recovery time of multiple minutes to get back to the true voltage of the cell. In fact, you're not really at the real voltage of the cell for as much as 12 or 14 hours. If you want to get into the thousands and the tens of thousands of a volt. And I would count this meter good to the thousandth, and probably to the 10,000th it's not. It's a pretty good meter, but it's not that good. And so we're coming up on 3.5 minutes. We're at 3.279. We'll make 3.28 here for 50%. And so I think these cells are shipped at about 60% state of charge. And I think we've got a little bit greater than a 90 amp hour capacity on this cell. We'll see. We're coming up on 5 minutes. I'm going to call it 3.2830 after 5 minutes of rest and 45 amp hours. We're at our 50% state of charge level and a 50% depth of discharge at 3.2830 volts. Let me put that in my little spreadsheet here. We are coming up on 54 amp hours withdrawn from our pack. That'll put us at a 40% state of charge, a 60% depth of discharge, and there's 5384, 5392. I'm going to switch this off. We're going to start our timer. I'm looking for 5 minutes, and we'll take our voltage at 40% state of charge. We're right at 5 minutes, 3.2705. I'm going to turn our load back on, apply a 90 amperes, and we're looking for 63 amp hours for our 30% state of charge, 70% depth of discharge. Coming up on our 63 amp hours here. That's 6259, 6268, 6275, 6283. Let's shut this down, give it a little lead. Get our timer going. We're right at 63 amp hours. And that represents a state of charge of 30%. And we'll run our timer for 5 minutes and record our voltage. It is kind of like watching paint dry, but this is how you do some of these tests. What are we testing for? We want to know kind of the static voltage after 5 minutes at each 10% increment of the cell, and we're going to prove what the capacity of the cell is after laying around our garage for 2.5 years. This will establish a relationship between voltage and state of charge, and you'll understand why we don't use it as a very reliable gas gauge, but why we do monitor our voltage on our EV as kind of one of the checks of the state of our pack, and it is a pretty good check. Better at the bottom quarter of the tank, and the problem with that is we don't want to be there. We'd like to limit our discharge to 80%, and so it's a better measure when you're past the 80% and looking for the bottom, as you'll see. We're looking for 5 minutes right now. Our voltage is recovering 3.2325, but it's counting up fairly rapidly. We'll give it 5 minutes to settle and record our 30% state of charge, 70% depth of discharge level. All right, we're coming up on 5 minutes here. We have 3.2488. 3.2490, let's say. And let's turn on our load. We're looking for 72 amps. We are coming up on our 72 amp hour level, and this is an important one. This is the 80% depth of discharge, or 20% state of charge, that you want to limit your use of these cells to in normal operation to maintain the 2000 cycle life of the cells. And there is 72. I'm going to shut it off, start our timer, and we're looking for 5 minutes on the timer, and then we will read the voltage and record it on our spreadsheet here, and for the 20% state of charge or 80% depth of discharge level. One of the things I'm doing here is I've added a column to multiply that by 36. Speedster Part Duh will have 36 cells, and so after fully charged if I charge them to the 4 volts, which I don't, I would have 121.91 volts. At a quarter tank down or 75%, I'd be between these two, or about 119 volts. By a half a tank, I'd be down pretty close to a little over 118 volts, about 118.19. And at 25%, we're going to be about 116 volts. And so you only have, from having a quarter of a tank of gas to a full tank, about 4 volts, close to 5 volts, between 4 and 5 volts on the whole pack. Now after that, it gets to be a pretty good indicator from here on down, but we're past the 80% at that point. And this will come in probably, around 115 volts at 20%. And so when you get to that on the 36 volt pack, but it's hard to get a voltmeter that will read accurately, that you can put in a dashboard that would be economical and that can read to this kind of definition, but you can still get a pretty good indication. And so I know if I'm down around 112 or 114 volts, I'm past my 80%, and I need to be headed for the barn. That's at a stoplight, stop for a few minutes, that sort of thing. So you can use voltage, but it's not very good until you're actually already past where you want to be as a gas gauge. Some magpies on the telephone line have taken that to mean that voltage does not indicate state of charge. This is simply nonsense. Every percent of state of charge has a voltage, and it's pretty reliable. But they're pretty small differences, and it takes good equipment and kind of a static situation to tell what it is, because the voltage is going to vary dramatically with any load on it at all. 1 amp, 90 amps, 900 amps, those will all be different voltages. And we're coming up on 5 minutes rest time at 72 amp hours. And I'm going to record our voltage is 3.2220. Let's turn on our load. We're loaded at 90 amps, and we're looking for 81 amp hours. Coming up on our 81 amp hours, we're below 3 volts loaded. Of course, we won't be unloaded. Got 80.27 here. 80.45, 80.59, 69, 76, 85, 93. Let's cut her off, and I think that'll get us to about 81, 81.03. Start our timer, and we'll see what we come up with for a voltage. And this will be at 90% depth of discharge, or 10% state of charge, assuming it's a 90 amp hour cell. We're coming up on 5 minutes. We're going to take a reading at 81 amp hours discharged from our cell here, and that's at a 10% state of charge or 90% depth of discharge. There's our 5 minutes. We're at 3.1845. I'm going to turn on our load. And we're looking for 90 amp hours, which would theoretically be 100%. And that 3.1845 would give us 114.64 volts on our dash meter, and we're at 90%. And so you can see, starting at 121 volts on our gauge, we get down to 114.64, just under 115 volts. And that's our whole tank, from 121 to basically 115, is 90% of our cell, with cell life with 36 cells. So it's not an excellent gas gauge. It can be used as a gas gauge, but it's not. It's better to count amp hours, and that's why we're working with Bruce Shirley here on the stated charge head and a display, hopefully something a little prettier than some big block numbers, that you can read how many amp hours you put in when you're charging and when you take them out. Let me reset my clock here. We're looking for 90 amp hours, and we're at 83.69. My voltage under load is at 2.9. It's going to start falling rapidly. And we normally say they've moved this to 2.8 volts. They used to be 2.5 volts cutoff at 1C. We'll probably run it down to 2.5 as we normally do. But it's dropping pretty quickly now. And that's that sharp end of that curve. And we're at 3.18 volts static, 90% discharged. Why do I want to bottom balance them at 2.85, or even in the case of the Cobra, what I've been doing is 2.75 volts? Well, that gets us far down on that vertical face of that discharge curve in the danger zone. And that's where I want them all to be lined up. I really don't care what their voltages are relatively in the middle of a discharge. And believe it or not, I really don't care at the top of charge. If some of them are 3.8 and some of them are still 3.4 and I'm shooting for 3.6, I really don't have a problem with that. Where I want them all to come together is at the bottom. And that's so I don't have one cell going over that knee and over that cliff before the other ones do. At 200 amps or 500 amps or 1400 amps, which we're shooting for with the Cobra. Now you should stop at 80% depth of discharge, 20%, and that's up around 3.2 volts, and you'll be fine. The top balancers tell you, well, I don't drive down that low. That's not the point. You don't want any of the cells going down that low, any of the individual cells. And the way to ensure that is to bottom balance them. We're at 87 amp hours, 2.72 volts, and dropping like a stone. 88.39, I'm at 2.6 over here. Actually, it's going to be pretty close. The cell's going to be right at 90 amp hours. Maybe just a hair under. We're at 2.58, 2.57, 88.86. I need 1.2 amp hours. There's my 2.5 volts. I'm at 89.43 amp hours, and that's pretty close. I'm going to run it on up to 90. And let's shut that off. Start my timer. And we're at 90 amp hours. I'm at 2.55 volts and climbing in recovery at 90 amp hours. 0% state of charge, 100% depth of discharge. And let's see how our voltage comes out. But you can see it moves very quickly at the end. This cell is almost exactly 90 amp hours. We put in almost exactly 45 to fully charge it. And so I'm going to say these cells are shipped at a 50% state of charge, and that a 3.30 voltage pretty much indicates that. If it's a stable, 24-hour static voltage. These 5-minute voltages are all going to be a little low. I was hoping to relate it a little bit to your driving and what you'll see on your dashboard if you have a voltmeter. And there we are at 5 minutes at 2.8594. We used to always bottom bounce at 2.85. I've been doing it at 2.75 for the Cobra. I think 2.85 is your better number. That's 100% discharged. So I'm going to come over here and enter this 2.8594. Into our spreadsheet and chart, and what you will see on the chart is a sharp dip from our 0 point to our first reading, a very gradual, actually quite linear decline down to our 90% level, and then it falls off the face of the universe from 10%, 90% discharge to 100% discharge. And if you were doing this with a 36 cell pack, you'd be at 121, down to 30%, you're still at 117 volts, and then 115, 116 at 20% left, 115 at 10% left, and suddenly it goes to 103 volts. Between 10% and 0, you dive from 115 volts to 103. And so you can see it's actually a great indicator in the last 10% where you don't want to be anyway. Our voltages are 3.386, let's say, 3.327, 3.315, 3.30, 3.290, 3.283, 3.270, 3.249, 3.222, 3.1845, and then 2.8594. The first segment from 0 to 9 amperes, from totally at rest, fully charged, to down 10 amps, is a pretty good size. And then the last one is huge. The rest of them are quite linear. They're quite indicative of the state of charge, and they're quite reliable. The problem is they're small differences, and so not useful. Not useful doesn't mean not true. And so if I take a cell out of a box and find that it's 3.300, and take another cell out of another box and find that it's 3.2999 volts, they're quite close in state of charge. And essentially the same. And that's what we found taking these cells out of the box after 2.5 years. They had within a 1,000th of a volt in most cases, and always within 100th of a volt of the same voltage of cells we had just received. And that indicates to me that they do not have a self-discharge. They do not decrease in capacity. They do not drift in and of themselves. And I stand by that. I think this experiment takes that a step further. It also establishes that we have a full 90 amp hours out of this random cell that we picked out of a box that we have owned and known where it was since October of 3 years ago. And this is, we're coming up on the 1st of August. So over 2.5 years old that we've had it in our possession. It was these particular cells, if I recall, were actually made in August of 2008, this being August of 2011. And so the cells are still perfectly good, in remarkably good shape. And anyone who tells you you need to charge them periodically if you're going to store them, total bullshit. You do not need to do that, and it would probably be harmful. My sense is that they rest best at 50%, and the reason I say that is because that's what the Chinese ship them at. And I'm going to defer to their greater knowledge in this case, and I don't always. But I think that the cell, the closer you are to 50%, the less stressed the cell is. When you charge it, fully charge it, you're putting a certain amount of stress on the cell, and when you fully discharge it, and its natural state would be a 50% charge. But they simply do not have the characteristics of nickel cadmium cells, nickel metal hydride cells, lead acid cells, and that's where these guys are coming up with this atrocious thinking about these cells, because they don't do any work to do any of the testing. It is kind of like watching paint dry, but it's the only way I know of to find out about the cells. Understand that the people we talk to, that I talk to, and many that I've talked to for many years in China that sell me the cells, really didn't design the cells and really don't have anything to do with the factory. The factory's owned kind of by the city government mostly and the central government, and these are trading companies that do distribution deals with the factories. And so this is why a lot of the information that they provide us is, number one, not very much information, and number two, a little bit garbled. And so we have to determine how these cells work kind of ourselves. And I've invested a lot of time, money, test equipment, and so forth watching paint dry to try to learn how they really work. And so it's not very good video, but I'll share with you what I'm doing. That's it for today. We've got a full 90 amp cell that's 2.5 years old. It came to us at 3.30 volts. When we opened the box, it was at 3.30 volts, and it was at 3.30 volts today. We charged it, and it took 45 amps. We discharged it, noting the voltage after 5 minutes of rest at each 10% increment, and drew a curve, and I'm going to put that up on the screen where you can see the numbers and the curve. We'll post that on the blog as well. But it's kind of, we normally graph under a load. In other words, we'll take the voltage measurement while we're drawing current, across the whole band, and at smaller increments. Today we just did 10% increments, then a 5-minute rest, and then noted the resting voltage. And I would relate that fairly much to what you would observe on your dashboard, which I thought you might find it useful, and why we bottom balance where we do. I would recommend this 2.85 volts. I got it in my head to do 2.75 on the Cobra, but if I had it to do over again, 2.85 is the voltage for bottom balancing. That's a 100% discharge cell. It's well on the vertical face of the cliff, on the discharge and charge curve, and if you get them all lined up there, when you charge them, don't worry about what voltages they wind up at, and just don't fully charge them as we did today to 4 volts. I could give up an amp hour, and that's really all you're going to lose, charging it to 3.65 volts in the case of a Thundersky cell, or 3.5 in the case of Calb cell, China Aviation lithium battery. The cow curve is a little flatter, but everything that we've said here today is pretty much the same, kind of smaller differences at each 10% increment. So that's it for now. Back to you, Ted. Do you recall last week I was quite thrilled with the wireless or the wire
Oh, the HEPA pedal we got.
from Locar.
Locar, yes, that beautiful piece, boy.
Piece of building aluminum.
Yeah.
Well, we've sent that to Ryan Bohm to kind of get that tested with his warp drive part
Right.
duh.
Yeah, you had to characterize that pedal and get it on. Yeah, get it in there, yeah.
And we've been talking about liquid cooling some.
Oh, good.
I've kind of got Ryan on board with this Summit Racing parts thing.
Oh, all the AN fittings and everything? How cool.
he
Good.
doesn't. He thinks his buyers won't want to spend the money for AN fittings.
Oh, they'll wanna
when
spend the
they
money.
see them, they'll want them.
Yeah, they'll want to spend the money.
And I think so too. So we've been going back and forth on that. But he's testing the pedal with the controller.
Oh, good.
And he said it's excellent.
Oh, cool. Okay, good.
If
Good,
you
good.
recall, my one criticism was the spring action was a little light. I
Yeah,
thought
it
it was
seemed-
going to be kind of sensitive.
Yeah.
Brian Downard of Locar called today.
Oh, really?
He wants his pedal back. He says, did you buy a pedal from Summit Racing? I said, indeed I did. I love it. He says, we want it back.
What's wrong with it?
He didn't say anything was wrong with it. He said it doesn't quite have the spring action they wanted.
Oh, so they felt it was too late.
And they had a new spring system for it, and he'd really like to get that one off the street and back in his
Get
hands,
back in his
and
shop.
get me a good one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I told him the story of what we were doing with it, which he seemed mildly dazed and confused by, but gratified to learn that there was some market for it that he didn't really
Didn't really
foresee.
think about it, yeah.
And I told him I would get with Ryan, retrieve the pedal, and get it to him, and so he could forthwith provide me a stiffy.
One that's a little more difficult to push.
That's right. And that was my only criticism of the
That
pedal.
really
is
was, too.
It seemed kind of light.
Yeah, a little light.
On the
It's
spring
at the end of your
action.
foot. On your hand, it felt great. On your foot,
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Brian feels so too.
Yeah, I
And
think
he'd really like to get that one back at $434. I imagine, since they just now become available. I've been tracking this pedal since the press release at
yeah.
SEMA last November.
Yeah.
And I was kind of on a waiting list at Summit.
Right. Yeah, we were on a waiting list. Yeah.
And they just, as soon as they got it, and they do a lot of Locar and Russell and all the hot rod
Yeah, some good stuff.
guys. And they got us one pronto. It was there's probably three of them out there.
Yeah, there can't be many yet. Yeah, exactly.
And maybe just me.
Yeah, only one phone call.
So we'll get that right back to you,
Yep.
Mr. Downard, and we'll look forward to the stiffer spring
Yeah.
action.
Good.
Brain, that's about all we've got this week. As I said, it's just been too hot.
Yeah, it's been
to
hot
do
here.
anything
I
in the
know.
shop. And until the temperature breaks, we're just kind of stalled out.
Yeah, it might be a little.
I
short
cannot
shows.
work in 100 degrees.
It is hot out
I'm
there.
old and my knees don't work, and it just. For now, I'm a very warm Jack Rickard with EVTV.
And I'm a cool Brian Noto.
He's hanging out in the office. We'll see you all next week.
We'll see.
And Tea Party. Hang, baby. You don't give it up. Hang.